Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Monday, July 15th, and we are off to an interesting start in the pre-market. There is a lot going on today, and stick with me to the end of this video where I'm going to reveal a couple of stocks that I think you can make 1 to 2% on today. If we start off looking at the Bloomberg, obviously, if you've been paying attention to the news media, you've seen the attempted assassination attempt on ex-President Donald Trump at his rally in Pennsylvania. Terrible, terrible thing that happened, but fortunately he came out relatively unscathed. But this fist pump of his in the air is creating a ton of noise, and certainly urging or maybe convincing supporters to favor him over President Biden in the upcoming election. So we'll see what happens there. But the news overall after an assassination attempt is typically negative for a market. The markets typically go down. Fortunately, he wasn't assassinated, so markets seem to be up, and support just generally in the Republican Party seems to be at its strongest point ever. A fairly cohesive group in greater unity coming out of this. So we'll have to see how that bodes. Now, what does that mean in terms of stocks and markets? Well, if Trump gets elected, it's probably going to be viewed as positive. All of our indices here on the North American exchanges are in the green and in the positive pre-market coming into 7:45. So we're still an hour and 45 minutes out of the open, and a lot can change in that time. But we're probably going to see companies that could be affected by tariffs maybe potentially start to see money diverted out of those, or investment gains taken and money started to shuffle or move into other sectors. Sectors that are Republican friendly would be more favored for growth. And so we'll have to keep an eye out for what transpires over the course of the next months leading up to November 5th. If we take a look at the markets, so we had Goldman Sachs come out about 20 minutes ago and report earnings. Their profit surged 150% from a year ago on a bit of a rebound. Their revenues were up marginally, but the stock isn't really accelerating in the pre-market. So it was up $4 or $5. If we go down to Goldman down here, you can see it's now off $3. So it's taking a bit of a hit. Same thing happened with JP Morgan earlier this year. And I think what we're seeing here is we've had a run up. I spoke about this a week or two ago in one of the videos. And typically what will happen is if we see a run up in price towards earnings date, even with a good earnings release or announcement, the stock can take a bit of a dip the next day or that day. It will often rebound over the course of the next couple of weeks, but it's already had such a great run. I mean, if we look at Goldman from a year-to-date perspective, it's up 24% year-to-date. So that's a pretty good run for a 6-month stretch, give or take. And it's looking, if it didn't have extremely good results and an extremely positive future forecast, then it's probably going to come back a little bit at some point. And it's decided to take that kind of pullback, a little bit of the pullback today. It may continue. We saw the same thing with JP Morgan on Friday. If we look at the chart here on Friday, it obviously announced at 8:30 or pre-market on Friday, and the stock dipped down to 202. It bounced back up to whatever its highs were here, around 207, and then it settled in around 204, 205 at the end of the day. And it appears to be off this morning as well, heading in, or it was, now it's up 81 cents. So it's kind of recovering. So you could get a bit of a lift here with Goldman. I would wait for Goldman to find a bit of a bottom, and 475 could be that bottom right now in the pre-market, but wait until it opens because there's going to be some volatility in this stock today. There's no question about that. And see if you can predict where that bottom is, and don't buy it on the way down. Buy it when it hits the bottom and starts going back up, and just ride the wave back up, and then exit at a point that is 1 to 2 percentage points higher if you can get to that. And that'll be a nice opportunity to take some profits today in Goldman. BlackRock also announced today, not a company that I follow closely, so I don't have an update on that. But we are going to see a lot of earnings come out this week, so it will be an interesting week to trade on those. If we take a look at some of the other financials, one of the ones that I've been advocating for some time is SoFi, and it looks set to be up almost 1.5% today, a stock that I do believe will get up into the mid to high $7 range. So that would be a buy and hold, in my opinion, for the long term. Another potential good buy would be JP Morgan on the bounce, and Morgan Stanley. If Morgan Stanley opens down, now here's a stock again that's had a run up. If you look at the last 5 days, this stock is up almost 5%, 4.5% in a week, which is a pretty aggressive move. If we look year to date on this one, this stock is up 12%-ish, call it 11 to 12%. Over the course of 6 months, which is a very decent return on even an annualized basis, certainly on a semi-annualized basis. But if we see some pullback today on Morgan Stanley with the Goldman pullback, I think there may be an opportunity to get in on this stock and wait for some positive earnings tomorrow coming out in the morning. And if they are positive, which I anticipate they will be, then this stock may actually pop up a bit and do the opposite of what JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs did. Don't know that for sure, but that is my prediction on that. If we scroll up through the tech sector, the NASDAQ is positive. NVIDIA seems to be making a bit of a move today. One that's getting hit is BABA. We've had bad news in terms of economic recovery coming out of China, with a lot of issues going on there. So what was climbing yesterday, last week on positive China news around the economy has now turned, and the narrative is less positive. I really love Meta. Meta, if it opens down even 38 cents, I just wait for that bottom today in Meta. It's back in the 490 range, which is kind of the sweet spot for Meta these days. If you look at Meta over a 1 month chart, you can see that we're kind of the low 490s, 493-ish or the mid 490s is kind of where it pulls back to, and then it tends to pop up. And earnings are coming for this, not immediately, but end of this month. And although it did drop on earnings last quarter, I do anticipate that it will have a positive earnings outcome this quarter. The other one that's a bit of an anomaly that's spiking and continuing to go up, it's probably gone up for a couple of weeks now, is Tesla. And Tesla is making a pretty significant recovery on no real fundamental new news. So that's one that I'm staying away from. I actually sold some Tesla recently on the way up, and I'm just waiting to see what happens there. I do believe that's a super strong company if you're going to hold that for 3 to 5 years. But I am waiting for a bit of a pullback there around their earnings announcement, which is coming in the next couple of weeks. And then as we move forward and take a look at some of the others, I'm looking for stocks in the NASDAQ that are good companies, but that are pulling back or that are rocketing forward, and I can ride some of that wave up. So one of those that had a significant pullback was Micron Technologies. So I bought into this in the 132 range. Looks like it's going to be up $1.34, $1.35. $1.37, $1.35 this morning. And I think it's going to continue its rise back to the 140s, maybe low 140s over the next couple of weeks. So that's one that I'm keeping an eye on. CrowdStrike being part of the S&P 500 now, it's pulled back from the 390s to the 370s. Definitely overpriced at this range, but trading within an envelope. So if we take a look at the 1 month here, you can see that it's trading kind of in between 370 and 390. So if the overall index goes up, there's a good chance that it's going to carry this with it as well. Another one of the big tech names with earnings this week, one of the early earnings releases, is Netflix. I've never been a huge owner of Netflix. I use the service all the time, but I've never ridden the Netflix wave and made a ton of money off of this stock. But it does have earnings coming out this week. They're likely viewed, or they're viewed to be likely positive in their results. But it is an expensive stock if we take a look at the price to earnings ratio at 44 times, not nearly as expensive as some of the others. And it is certainly a stock that is a great company. It has a ton of growth opportunity at its ahead of it, and a lot of future potential. But it's not one that I see growing massively personally at this point. Maybe it will at some point in the future, but I feel like it's kind of hit critical mass. So I'm staying away from Netflix myself. AMD up in the 180s. Great stock here. Made a recovery from the, I think it was the 150s or 160s. If we take a look at the 6 month, yeah, it was even lower. It was down in the 140s less than a month ago, now up into the 180s. It's just kind of caught the coattails of that semiconductor wave. If you're looking to get into the semiconductor wave, the two stocks that have just done incredibly well that we've talked about here, one overvalued ARM, and the other NVIDIA. And I would stick to the market leader, NVIDIA, in that case, and take a 1 to 2% gain on that, as it tends to pop and have extreme volatility more so than others. Oil was off and is off this morning. It's now at even. I think oil is going to come back. I think it's going to lift oil stocks. Most of the oil stocks here are in the green, so it should be a positive day for oil. They should continue to make a rebound. The other one I'm keeping an eye on in transport is JB Hunt. JB Hunt announces tomorrow with earnings. It's had an incredible 5-day run. If you look at this, it's gone from 154 to 166, and I was a big advocate of this. I said if it came down to 154, because as we can see, it was the following week, it was up here in the 160s, and I said it's going to come back into the 155, 154 range, buy it below 156, and sure enough, it's rocketed up there. Again, the thing to keep in mind with this is it is rocketed up into earnings. If earnings do anything but provide extreme positive messaging, it's going to fall back. So I would stay out of JB Hunt at this point and wait for earnings tomorrow. I don't expect earnings will be bad, but I don't expect they're going to be phenomenal either. We may hear about a bit of a recovery, but with the price of oil right now as one of their big inputs in transport, I think they're going to find that margins are thinner than expected. And if that's the case, profits will likely be down, even if revenues are up. And I'm not suggesting they are. Revenues may be down as well. So I'm going to wait to buy JB Hunt on a pullback, and we'll see what happens to that stock tomorrow. Humana up pre-market $10. This is meaningless. This stock can move $8 to $10 in the pre-market, and it means nothing at open. So I'm not doing a lot here, but I have been holding Humana and do feel it's on a recovery trajectory, and it's been increasing in value. I bought some options about 5 months ago when it was down in the low 300s, and for a March 25th, 2025 expiry at 330. So those are in the money over 100% at this point, and I'm just going to continue to hold those as the trajectory continues to go up. Others that I think will be positive in the economy we're shifting into are the retail stocks that attract and market to low income and low cost retail. So Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Walmart, even Costco with its $5 membership increase, very likely to be very positive to its bottom line and drive revenues and net income upwards. Not that we've got Costco in our list here, but that would be another one that I would look at. And that's where we are today on the 15th. So good luck with your trades. And if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button.